Good day, everyone. This is your Friday evening news. And the date is currently October 11th, 2024. There's some breaking news that just got brought to our attention. In 1914, our field reporter uncovered a one-of-a-kind story regarding a man who suddenly and unexpectedly woke up and found himself turned into a monstrous bug. On to our source on the ground for more. Now, let's go to our field reporter, Bert Liu. Hi, Bert. Can you give the viewers a rundown of this situation?
Of course, Jonathan. Well, I'm currently in the beautiful city of Prague, and from what I have gathered, this apartment behind me is where it all began. The Samsa family, of which Gregor Samsa, the person who metamorphosized into an insect, belonged to, were the owners of this humble abode.
Now, with me are the two people most familiar with this situation. The head boarder and Mr. Samsa himself, who so graciously put aside their past differences for this interview. Now, Mr. Head Boarder, what can you tell us about this extraordinary situation we are in?
Well, for starters, Mr. Reporter, it was horrible. My two good buddies and I came across this listing for room and board at Mr. Samsa's apartment, and of course we jumped at the opportunity. However, we never thought that before the first rent payment, we would wind up seeing such a thing. We were rather excited about seeing it, that creature. Yet Mr. Samsa began to prevent us from trying to see it. It was then that we realized that this creature was living with us in the same apartment, all our time there. The Samsa family tried to appease us through a quick making of the bed, but it was too late. We all saw that abomination that came out of the room, with a rotting apple stuck in its back, its beady eyes. To think that that was once a human, unbelievable.
Wow, what impassioned remarks. Now, let's talk to Mr. Samsa, the father of Gregor, who can tell us about the backstory of his son turned bug. Thank you for your time, Mr. Samsa. As I understand, you're busy looking for a husband for your daughter. Can you tell us more about your son?
Yes, I shall. The relief that I have felt ever since the death of that thing, that malevolent identity that happened to take over the form of my dear son by some curse levied on us by the devil, is perhaps greater than I had thought possible. I grieve the death of my son, as it was by his work as a traveling salesman that we were able to live, in hindsight, a life of relative luxury. And I think that with the death of that thing, I can finally truly put the grief that I felt for my son behind me, for we have avenged the evil that took his life. I can still recall the sheer depth of the horror that penetrated my heart the very first day I witnessed the takeover of my dear son, who sacrificed, again, nearly almost all of his waking time and energy just to provide for us and the household.
Thank you for your emotional words, Mr. Samsa. I understand how hard it is to open up about this subject, but I appreciate your time. Thank you, guys. What bravery these men displayed in recounting their experience. Upon further interview with Mr. Samsa off air, we gathered more information about Gregor Samsa. One day, suddenly and without notice, Gregor wakes up to find himself inexplicably turned into a giant insect. Confused and unable to control his new body, he struggles to get out of bed. His first concern is not the transformation itself, but the fact that he is late for work. As a traveling salesman, Gregor is the main breadwinner for the Samsa family, and he fears the repercussions of missing a single day of work. He takes this role due to the bankruptcy of his father's company, which occurred when Mr. Samsa incurred significant debt, which led to the collapse of his business. As a result, the entire financial burden of supporting the family fell on Gregor. His family, worried that he has not left for work, knocks on his door, but Gregor is unable to communicate or open it due to his new form. His boss, the chief clerk, arrives at the Samsa household to check on him and reprimand him for his lateness. Gregor finally manages to unlock the door with great difficulty, revealing his monstrous appearance to everyone. His family is horrified, and the chief clerk flees the scene in shock. Gregor tries to explain himself, but his insect-like form prevents him from speaking coherently. His father drives him back into his room with a stick, and Gregor realizes that his life, as he knew it, has changed forever. Now, that is the gist of it, Jonathan. Back to you.
Welcome back to our scheduled programming. Our viewers have called in, and they all want to know more about the extraordinary situation regarding Gregor Samsa. and his now infamous metamorphosis into a bug. Well, I bring forth good news. Today, we have brought in the only worldwide expert on this bizarre situation involving a miraculous human-turned bug, Vade Anand. He has been analyzing these circumstances and is the foremost expert in the world on the unique phenomenon he calls Kafkacation. What can you tell us about this phenomenon, Vade?
Good day, Jonathan. Yes, in my extensive research of Gregor Samsa and his story, the most obvious event was his metamorphosis, or Kafkacation. This instance of Kafkacation occurred due to the same causes as the very few cases that came before this, where the person who transformed did so because of the alienation and dehumanization that they experienced from society and their family. Gregor was a traveling salesman, and his work was a monotonous and grueling occupation that isolated him from meaningful human interaction. And in it reduces himself to a mere cog within a capitalistic machine. As he is constantly on the road, Gregor faces long hours, stressful demands, and little rest, which leaves him very disconnected from his family and devoid of personal fulfillment. His work dehumanizes him, as he is valued solely for his productivity and not as an individual, and as such he becomes trapped in a cycle where his identity is defined entirely by his labor. This alienation is made literal in his Kafkacation, where his physical transformation into an insect just serves to reflect the way that his humanity has already been eroded by his oppressive work and his conditions. And then furthermore, his family's lack of appreciation for his labors pushed him into the metamorphosis. Prior to Gregor's transformation, his family dehumanized and alienated him because they solely saw him as a source of financial support, the breadwinner for the family. He was valued more for his ability to work and provide for them than for his personal well-being. They offered little emotional connection, treating him with indifference and taking his sacrifices for granted. And it was this transactional relationship that created a sense of isolation, as Gregor's worth was filed exclusively to his labor, not his humanity nor his status as a part of the family.
Well, that's fascinating, Vade. So Gregor's metamorphosis wasn't simply a random occurrence. It was caused by external factors. Now, let's talk to Jonathan Jill, who is the premier authority on the relevance of Kafkacation in our times. Welcome, Jonathan. What can you tell us about how Gregor's situation applies to current times?
Thanks for having me on, Lert. Well, the issues inherent in Gregor's story are very relevant today. While the story is from the early 1900s, we see the same capitalist tendencies to dehumanize workers in our contemporary society, treating them as mere cogs in a machine. Just think of how large corporations often discard employees once they are no longer useful, whether due to age, illness, or other factors that prevent them from contributing to the bottom line. It goes without saying that this is analogous to Gregor's shunning by the chief clerk after missing work for only one day, who decried Gregor's lack of commitment to the company's bottom line. We can also view these events in the context of gender roles. Gregor was chosen as the breadwinner over his sister, Greta, and this exemplifies the traditional gender role of men providing for the family. Greta was also the primary caretaker of Gregor after his Kafkacation, representing the traditional role of women as the domestic feminine figure. Women now face expectations to manage both domestic and professional duties, and their work often goes unrecognized unless it directly contributes to the family's financial stability. Men still feel social pressure to be masculine and often feel emasculated when they take care of their families in a domestic setting or express emotions of sadness or vulnerability. Gregor's story, when viewed through these particular lenses, serves as a powerful reminder of the need to challenge both capitalist exploitation and gendered social expectations.
A thoughtful analysis indeed. Isn't it remarkable how, in today's world filled with various movements for social justice, both at home and abroad, a story from more than 100 years ago can still have such undeniable impact and say so much about the modern day? It is clear that the themes of Gregor's metamorphosis are not just confined to his status as one unfortunate, pitiful bug, but they extend far beyond into critiques of society, labor, and even gender roles. Now, we have more breaking news. It has just been reported that the Archduke of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, Franz Ferdinand, has been assassinated. Keep watching to see expert analysis on how this might impact European stability.